In the center of Salisbury, massive stone columns rise on an open plain, forming one of the most famous ancient monuments. This structure symbolizes historical mysteries and showcases the engineering skills of our ancestors. The circular megaliths, arranged in strict order, attract numerous researchers and tourists eager to uncover their true purpose. The complex consists of large stone columns and lintels, creating several closed forms. The foundation features an outer ring made of vertically standing stone blocks linked by horizontal beams. Inside this ring lies a horseshoe made up of 5 separate structures, each representing a trilithon composed of 2 vertical stones and 1 horizontal stone supported by them. The largest stones reach a height of 7 millis and can weigh up to 25 tons. Initially, smaller stones and additional circles were part of the structure, but over time, some were lost, leaving only the main framework. Research on the monument began in the first millennium, but active excavations started in the early 20th century. One of the first significant expeditions was conducted by William Hawley in the 1920s, who recorded the arrangement of the stones and revealed important aspects of their installation. By mid-century, other archaeologists joined the work, laying the groundwork for modern studies. Their findings indicated that Stonehenge was built in stages over a long period. The earliest signs of human activity at this site date back to the 8th and 7th millennia BCE, when tribes of hunter-gatherers began settling in England. Later, during the Neolithic era, farmers and herders emerged, representing a culture known as Windmill Hill, possessing significant knowledge of seasonal cycles. Around 3000 BCE, large-scale construction of the stone complex began. Archaeologists identify 3 main phases of its construction. The first phase, spanning from 3000 to 2900 BCE, involved creating the earthwork bank and ditch around the future stone circle, as well as digging pits where wooden posts or smaller stones may have been placed. The second phase, from 2600 to 2400 BCE, marked the most extensive development when the famous bluestones from Wales were transported here. These volcanic rocks were quarried in the west of the island and moved over considerable distances by land and water. It's likely that the stones traveled by river on rafts and were then moved overland using rollers and ropes. During the second phase, the bluestones formed a double ring. The final phase, from 2400 to 2000 BCE, shaped the appearance of Stonehenge when large sandstone megaliths were brought in from the north. These massive blocks were meticulously shaped and erected, forming the outer circle and inner horseshoe. The builders employed advanced engineering techniques, leaving special projections and indentations on the blocks for secure connections. The high level of craftsmanship and precision in fitting stones indicate that ancient masters effectively tackled serious technical challenges. Thanks to modern dating methods and radiocarbon analysis, it became possible to establish exact timelines for the construction. The building work concluded around 2000 BCE. Although the stones of Stonehenge can't be directly dated, archaeologists determined the age of the monument by examining organic materials found in its main elements. Specifically, they analyzed charred wood remnants, bones, and ash discovered in pits, ditches, and trenches, as well as in deposits from construction activities. These materials were left during the erection or renovation of the structure, allowing for precise dating of these actions. The radiocarbon dating method relies on measuring the carbon-14 isotope in organic remains. After an organism dies, this isotope gradually decays, and its quantity can indicate the time elapsed since the last exchange with the environment. The margin of error for this method is usually not more than several decades, making it especially useful for studying monuments from the late Neolithic and Bronze Age. In the case of Stonehenge, this method helped establish the sequence of construction phases and clarify the chronology of each, including the creation of earthworks, stone placements, and subsequent modifications. However, even after construction was completed, Stonehenge continued to be an important center for local communities, as evidenced by numerous finds of burials and remnants of festive gatherings. Over the past 2 centuries, many theories have emerged around Stonehenge, extending beyond traditional archaeology and science. This monument often attracted the attention of seekers looking for traces of more powerful civilizations in the past. Many of these ideas arose amid popular literature, esoteric movements, and the desire to ascribe special symbolic meanings to ancient monuments. Stonehenge became the focus of such theories. One of the most famous suggests intervention by extraterrestrial civilizations. Such ideas began to circulate in the mid-20th century, especially after the publication of Erich von Däniken's book Chariots of the Gods in 1968. In this and similar works, Stonehenge is mentioned as a monument supposedly built with the help of beings from other worlds. The primary argument centers on the weight of the stones, the lack of written records, the technology of their installation, and the complexity of their shaping. It's concluded that the culture existing on the British Isles around 5,000 years ago lacked the organizational resources and technologies to explain the creation of such an accurate and heavy structure. Additional evidence comes from marks on the stones, which some researchers describe as results of thermal processing. It's claimed that the surface of the megaliths was melted or polished using technologies that surpass late Neolithic capabilities. Anomalous strength of the joints, uniformity of laying, and symmetry are also mentioned, attributed to the use of machines or precise calculations. These discussions also bring up ideas about magnetic anomalies or strange properties of the stone, which might indicate some special influence. However, archaeological and engineering data provide a consistent explanation for all these phenomena. The stones of Stonehenge were shaped manually using stone and wooden tools. Surface irregularities, chips, and polished areas resulted from weathering, friction, and subsequent restorations. Research on the structure of sandstone and dolerite revealed no signs of high-temperature impact or mechanical processing. The use of projections, indentations, and tight fitting relied on simple and reliable principles of stability known to many building traditions. There's no need to introduce external technologies to explain such solutions. They fully align with accumulated knowledge about stone construction. Regarding magnetic fluctuations, measurements conducted by British geophysicists in the early 2000s showed stable values corresponding to regional geology. Within the complex, a natural background exists due to the underlying layers and the mineral composition of the megaliths, which falls within acceptable ranges and does not form anomalies that could be interpreted as signs of artificial influence. It's also frequently discussed that in the vicinity, Stonehenge seemingly lacks evidence of permanent habitation, which some interpret as a hint of extraterrestrial origins. However, in recent decades, archaeologists discovered numerous signs of human activity in the area, including temporary camps, food preparation sites, ash pits, and animal bones. All this points to human communities connected to the monument's construction and its surroundings. These findings correlate with key phases of Stonehenge's construction, confirming that local people carried out the project. There are also theories linking Stonehenge to hypothetical energy fields or portals. These ideas emerged in the late 20th century, blending esotericism, occult teachings, and pseudo-scientific concepts. A central element became the notion of ley lines, supposedly connecting ancient shrines, mounds, and sacred groves. This term was introduced by British writer Alfred Watkins in the 1920s, when he described ancient roads aligned with natural landmarks. Later, Watkins's followers transformed these lines into the basis of an energy network, with Stonehenge seen as a focal point of unknown forces. In this context, the stones act as structures that influence both space and consciousness. Some researchers describe them as concentrators, activators, or anchors of temporal and spatial vortices. Geophysical studies conducted over the last few decades have not revealed any anomalies that could be related to energy networks. No signs of local changes in the magnetic field, radiation background, atmospheric ionization, or the spread of unknown emissions have been found. There's no data on a regular grid connecting Europe's megaliths within a clear geometric system. Such ideas are based not on measurements, but rather on interpretations of lines drawn on maps without considering relief, chronology, or cultural differences. There are also hypotheses linking Stonehenge to the mythical Hyperborea mentioned by ancient Greek historians. According to these views, the megaliths represent remnants of a unified ancient civilization that existed before all known cultures. These ideas began circulating in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, propagated by authors seeking to present Northern Europe as the source of ancient knowledge. In this interpretation, Stonehenge becomes a temple of a vanished Arctic civilization alongside other megaliths. However, such comparisons ignore key archaeological analysis criteria, including chronology, construction methods, cultural context, and architectural language. The stone complexes of the British Isles date back to the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE, while the megaliths of Eastern Europe and Northern Eurasia belong to different epochs and economic structures. There are no unifying symbols, common plans, or traces of common origin. Including Stonehenge in global schemes of vanished civilizations relies on visual analogies and assumptions without a real basis. The popularity of such theories stems from the appeal of lost knowledge and the desire to create an alternative to official science. However, it's the consistent study of the monument using field methods, dating, and engineering analysis that provides insight into how it was constructed. Many features of Stonehenge become clearer when viewed in the context of the ideas characteristic of late Neolithic societies. Modern archaeological research focuses on three main areas: the astronomical orientation of the structure, the significance of burial practices, and the potential functions of the monument as a center for ritual and social life. All these aspects are supported by concrete archaeological finds and represent interconnected elements reflecting the worldview of people who lived near Old Sarum over 4,000 years ago. One of the most noticeable and well-documented characteristics is the alignment of the structure with the directions of the summer and winter solstices. The main entrance to the circle is positioned so that, on the day of the summer solstice, the sun rises above the hillstone, illuminating the axis of the complex. The direction corresponding to the sunset of the winter solstice passes precisely through the center of the inner circle. Instrumental measurements, simulations of celestial movement, and observations on site have confirmed these alignments. They indicate a high level of precision in choosing the axis and suggest a long-term tradition of seasonal observations. Similar astronomical orientations can also be found in other megalithic monuments in Britain, from the Callanish Circle on the Isle of Lewis to the Ring of Brodgar in the Orkney Archipelago. This suggests that orientation to celestial cycles was part of a broader system of beliefs, where natural rhythms were connected to calendar rituals, agricultural cycles, and social gatherings. Astronomical accuracy was achieved using simple means, such as horizon markers, standing stones, and long-term observations of the sun and moon's positions. These knowledges were likely passed down through generations. Burial finds also play a significant role. The earliest elements of Stonehenge are the so-called Aubrey holes, containing over 30 cremation urns carefully placed in pits around the circle. Remains of at least 100 individuals were found around the monument. Radiocarbon analysis showed that these burials occurred over approximately 200 years. Isotopic and osteological studies indicate that the buried, mostly men aged 25 to 40, often showed signs of physical stress and injuries. This may suggest that people with special status in society, possibly leaders or priests, were buried here. The connection between the movement of light and burial practices allows for the hypothesis of an ancestor cult. The sun, while completing its annual path, symbolizes renewal and return. The burials within the circle, aligned with illumination along the axis, create an impression of a space where time and memory merge within a ritual structure. In this context, the stone structures serve not only as architectural objects, but as a means of fixing worldviews in which life and death are intertwined with natural cycles. Recent studies conducted as part of a project related to ancient monument construction have revealed an important feature. The complex is organically integrated into a landscape rich with signs. A few kilometers to the north, archaeologists explored the remains of Darrington walls, where wooden structures, traces of mass feasting and gathering places were found. The positioning of the posts, similar to Stonehenge, was oriented towards the sun, but in the opposite direction towards sunset. This contrast emphasizes the concept of two aspects of ritual life, the temporal and the eternal. Special attention is given to the technology of stone installation. Field excavations revealed rectangular pits with compacted bottoms, intended for vertical blocks. In these pits, traces of wooden braces and stone wedges that held the megaliths after their raising were preserved. During the excavation of one of the support holes, archaeologists discovered fragments of wooden beams and signs of scaffolding. This data helped reconstruct the technology. Vertical blocks were installed at an angle, with the base filled with gravel and clay followed by leveling. Horizontal lintels were laid using earth mounds, wooden guides, and ropes passing through cut grooves. Protrusions at the ends of the horizontal stones fit into corresponding recesses of the vertical blocks. This method of connection confirms the architect's desire for strength, durability, and precise fitting of elements. Now we move to Göbekli Tepe, archaeological discoveries in the east, at the foot of the mountains, where dusty, the plains of southeastern Anatolia hid one of the most astonishing mysteries of the ancient world. Here, amid arid landscapes near the city of Urfa, lies a hill that was deemed an ordinary geological formation until the late 20th century. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began his work in 1994, changing forever our understanding of ancient architecture, religious practices, and civilization itself. Göbekli Tepe became one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in history. Radiocarbon dating of organic material extracted from the construction layers determined the site's age to be around the 9th or 10th millennium BCE. This makes it the earliest known religious structure in human history. It predates the invention of writing, pottery, and settled agriculture. Göbekli Tepe emerged at a time when hunter-gatherer societies began to settle and form stable social structures. Archaeologically, this site connects to the early Neolithic community that existed in the Levant and Upper Mesopotamia. These were not yet settled farmers, but semi-nomadic groups that came together for seasonal gatherings, trade, and ceremonies. The hill served as a sanctuary. Its construction differs from that of economic settlements. There are no signs of residential buildings, hearths, or trash deposits. Everything indicates that people came here for ritual collective acts. The stone circles were built successively. Inside each circle stood massive T-shaped pillars arranged around the perimeter. Their height reached 5 meters, and their weight could be up to 20 tons. 2 central pillars in each circle dominated the others, creating a focus for the ritual space. Most pillars are adorned with bas-reliefs depicting animals and abstract symbols crafted with remarkable precision. Various predators and aquatic birds are represented in stone. Some figures appear in motion, featuring distinctly defined muscles, teeth, and wings. Notably, scenes show animals interacting as if following a specific pattern or sequence. One pillar depicts a griffin clutching a round object resembling a skull. Another shows a scene with a group of reptiles arranged in a circle. These images might reflect ritual myths, possibly related to the afterlife, hunting, or seasonal cycles. The detailed execution and compositional organization of the bas-reliefs are astonishing. Many animals are shown in profile, yet with elements of three-quarter views. Some figures extend beyond the pillar's edge, creating an impression of encroachment into real space. Symbolic scenes are arranged so that they can't be fully grasped in one glance without circling the structures. Alongside the bas-reliefs, signs appear, such as repeating geometric motifs of hands, belts, and wraps. Several central pillars feature schematic images of hands placed on bellies and waistbands with pendants. All this suggests that it's hypothesized that the pillars may represent anthropomorphic figures, possibly ancestors, gods, or protective spirits. The absence of distinct facial features emphasizes their universality. The Göbekli Tepe complex has become a crucial argument for revising traditional views on the development of human culture. Previously, it was believed that religious and monumental architectural forms arose from the transition to an agricultural lifestyle. However, this complex shows the opposite sequence. First, places for communal rituals emerged, and then the need for permanent settlements, agriculture, and new technologies appeared. The idea that sacred practices might have catalyzed social organization finds expression in this monument. Archaeological excavations, which began in 1994, are ongoing. So far, only 4 of the estimated 20 circles have been uncovered, while the rest remain hidden beneath the man-made hill created by builders. The unusual ancient structure of Göbekli Tepe, its monumentality, and the absence of signs of economic activity on its territory have led to numerous speculative theories. The emergence of this complex in the 10th millennium BCE evokes a sense of incongruity among researchers and the public. How could hunter-gatherers, without metal tools, pottery, and settled agriculture, create such a grand and symbolically rich structure? This tension between conventional history and actual archaeological findings has generated alternative narratives, where the structure is seen as a relic of a lost culture connected to older civilizations. One prevalent theory suggests that Göbekli Tepe is a remnant of a prehistoric civilization that existed before the mythical flood. This idea gained popularity due to the work of a researcher who claims that the stone pillars contain messages from a highly advanced culture destroyed by a catastrophe about 12,000 years ago. He interprets the animal images as a star map encoding the Earth's collision with an asteroid at the end of the last ice age. The author also believes that the architectural complexity of the complex exceeds the capabilities of Neolithic communities and indicates lost knowledge. The popularity of such theories arises from the fact that Göbekli Tepe indeed disrupts conventional timelines. It seems too early, too sophisticated, and too out of place for its time. Yet, this is what makes it a crucial subject for scientific analysis. Scientifically, Göbekli Tepe serves as clear evidence that ritual practices, architecture, and symbolic thinking arose long before agriculture became widespread. This aligns with observations in other regions of the Near East, such as Çatalhöyük or Jericho, where signs of social organization not linked to an agrarian economy already appear in the 10th millennium BCE. People gathered in specific locations, coordinated their actions, worked together, and created meaningful spaces. Studies of construction pits, tool remnants, and limestone analysis have helped reconstruct the proposed construction process. The stones were carved directly from the soft limestone found nearby. The primary tools were pointed stone picks made of flint. The worked pillars were moved using sledges, employing runners and wooden rollers. At the bases of the circles, archaeologists found meticulously prepared pits with compacted bottoms, where T-shaped blocks were vertically installed. Wedge stones and gravel, compacted with layers of earth, were used for fastening. Inside some construction pits, impressions from supports and remnants of ancient scaffolding have been preserved. The process of raising the blocks likely involved the use of earthen mounds and levers. After completion, the earth slopes were cleared and the foundation was compacted. The central pillars were installed first, with the outer ones added in a circular fashion. The symmetry, proportions, and orientation of all elements indicate precise calculations. The distance between the pillars is consistent, the height is regulated, and the inner structure repeats from circle to circle. This suggests a planning scheme and collective knowledge of space. Now, let's move to the mountainous valley of eastern Baalbek, where architectural features of the Mediterranean connect with the majestic stones that symbolize the impossible. In modern-day Lebanon, an ancient platform was built, still regarded as one of the most mysterious engineering feats of the Roman world. This refers to the Temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, a monumental complex whose size and design continue to inspire awe and debate. The Temple of Jupiter is a grand structure from the Roman era. In the mid-1st century CE, its columns astound with their size. Each stands nearly 20 meters tall, and the pedestal beneath them remains a topic of heated debate. The disputes center around three massive stones embedded in the platform's foundation. Each weighs about 800 tons and measures nearly 20 meters in length. These stones are known as the Baalbek trilithons. They lie in the third upper tier of the sub-platform base, making their placement crucial for understanding ancient engineering. For centuries, scholars have discussed the origins of these blocks and the technology used to position them. The trilithons often spark hypotheses linking them to a lost culture, Cyclopean builders, or unknown technical capabilities of the ancient world. Modern studies highlight the seeming impossibility. How could people without modern cranes move such stones to a height of about 7 meters with high precision? Yet archaeological data suggest that the mystery becomes less enigmatic when examining both the platform and the technologies utilized in antiquity. The trilithons form part of the so-called sub-platform base and are located in its western section. They're laid in a single horizontal row and fit tightly against one another. These blocks are crafted from limestone quarried approximately 800 meters from the temple. In that same quarry, archaeologists recently discovered another gigantic block, known as the Stone of the Southern Pregnant Woman, weighing over 1,000 tons. Nearby, they found a second, even larger block weighing about 1,200 tons. It remains unfinished and gives insight into the scale of the planned construction. Marks on the surface, fracture directions, and detachment features indicate that the blocks were gradually separated, creating undermining tunnels using chisels, levers, and slowly expanding channels. Similar techniques have been described in other regions, including Egypt, where blocks weighing over 100 tons were moved along inclined planes. In the case of Baalbek, researchers propose that transportation occurred on a carefully leveled stone road using sleds, log sledges, and a significant amount of human labor. An interesting question arises: how could such heavy stones be lifted? Archaeologists believe the blocks were not stacked from the ground up, but were placed using a covered platform. Initially, an earth ramp was built for the blocks to be raised horizontally by dragging or rolling them. Then it was gradually dismantled to start laying subsequent tiers. This methodology is known from similar constructions in the ancient world, where embankments, wooden scaffolding, and lifting mechanisms employing ropes and counterweights were used to erect columns and arches. Studies of ancient cranes, like those described by Vitruvius and Hero of Alexandria, reveal that mechanisms with wheel capstans could lift substantial weights, though not alone or to great heights. Therefore, it's believed that the primary tool was not cranes, but a gravity sliding system on the embankment that allowed the movement of enormous blocks during platform construction. In antiquity, Baalbek was known as Heliopolis, meaning City of the Sun. Before the Roman reconstruction, a Phoenician cult center dedicated to Baal, one of the region's primary deities associated with the skies, storms, and fertility, stood on this site. Baal served as the supreme god and was often equated with Zeus or Jupiter. The Romans erected a majestic temple complex here, including 3 temples, those of Jupiter, Bacchus, and Venus. The architecture of these structures reflects a blend of Eastern cults and Roman monumentality. It was the Romans who began using large platforms to elevate the temple above the ground, highlighting it as the center of a sacred space. Thus, the Baalbek trilithons testify to a grand architectural project that employed the resources, methods, and collective labor available at the time. The construction of this complex lasted over 100 years, with each phase grounded in technical rationale. Monumentality was a crucial part of the vision, as the temple was meant to not only rise above, but also instill a sense of power, eternity, and inaccessibility. Each megalithic object of antiquity is surrounded by its mythology, and Baalbek is no exception. Already in medieval chronicles, its ruins were linked to giants and lost peoples. Local legends claimed that this city was built by Nephilim, descendants of the sons of God and daughters of men, according to biblical traditions. These narratives gained popularity in the works of 20th century esoteric authors, such as Elizabeth Prophet. In one of her writings, Baalbek is described as a center of evil constructed by the Nephilim before the flood, posing a unique energetic threat. Later, such imagery transitioned into modern theories, where angels were replaced by representatives of lost civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria. The imagination went even further into technology, positing that the megablocks could have been lifted using anti-gravity or unknown energy. Among the authors actively promoting such ideas, Zecharia Sitchin stands out. In his book, The End of Days, he claimed that Baalbek served as a landing site for the extraterrestrial race of the Anunnaki, based on his interpretation of Sumerian mythology. According to him, the gigantic platform was created before humans existed to service the flying ships of aliens. However, neither archaeological, textual, nor engineering data supports this viewpoint. Alongside engineering explanations, Baalbek has attracted the interest of authors of pseudo-scientific literature. Besides Sitchin, David Childress also developed ideas about purportedly unknown technologies, suggesting that the stones were cast on site using limestone softening processes. A common thread in all these versions is the lack of experimental or material evidence. They rely on interpretations of appearance and impressive sizes without considering the archaeological context. None of these theories are backed by material or documentary evidence. Everything known about Baalbek forms a logical and verifiable picture, where the technologies of its time, based on labor-intensive collective work, take center stage. Modern researchers have proposed several workable engineering hypotheses explaining the placement of the trilithons. The most substantiated rely on ancient construction experience in Rome, Alexandria, and Jerusalem, where inclined embankments, sliding platforms, and block systems were used. One researcher, engineer Glenn Borders, reconstructed a possible sequence of actions. First, a site was leveled. Then an earthen slope of fixed height was built, and the megablock was lifted along it using ropes attached to wooden rollers. A counterweight system was employed, and movement was controlled by capstans, or vertical drums with ropes, turned by workers or pack animals. Such an approach could ensure smooth movement, even with masses exceeding 500 tons if the load was distributed across the entire surface. Borders conducted a series of engineering calculations and created scale models demonstrating how transportation and lifting of such blocks could have been achieved. His work was published in engineering and popular historical journals and was based on data from other ancient sites. The methodology proposed by Borders fits into well-known ancient construction principles, backed by the technical parameters of the site in Baalbek. Successful experiences with similar lifts can also be seen in other projects. For instance, the Romans who built obelisks moved multi-tiered columns and constructed aqueducts and triumphal arches, where individual block weights sometimes exceeded hundreds of tons. Baalbek also falls into this category. Its structure, proportions, and building techniques fully align with the post-Roman period. Stones were worked with well-known tools, and the masonry resembles that of other eastern provinces. Many ornamental elements, architectural forms, and compositional principles resonate with temples in the Middle East, especially complexes in Byblos, Palmyra, and Gerse. Local construction traditions and Roman practices merged here, creating an ensemble that surpasses many metropolitan structures in scale. Continuing our journey through the most discussed ruins of antiquity, we move to South America, to a waterless highland plateau, where a mystery hidden among the stones challenges archaeologists and intrigues alternative history enthusiasts. This refers to Pumapunku and Tiwanaku, two parts of an ancient ritual center located in modern Bolivia. These structures have become symbols of unusual stone masonry, precise geometry, and debates surrounding the technologies of civilizations before European arrival. Tiwanaku is an archaeological zone situated on the southeastern shore of Lake Titicaca. This complex is considered the center of the eponymous culture that thrived from the early 1st millennium BCE to around the 10th century CE. The Tiwanaku culture belongs to some of the early Andean civilizations that developed in the highlands of the Altiplano. Its representatives mastered complex agricultural technologies, including raised fields and irrigation canals, and built large ceremonial complexes aligned with astronomical phenomena. Archaeological finds indicate advancements in metallurgy, ceramics, and trade networks extending to the Pacific coast. The Tiwanaku society formed a stable agricultural system, developed intricate engineering structures, and created large ritual centers. Foundations, walls, and gates made from gigantic stone blocks have survived here. The most famous part is the monolithic sun gate, featuring a deity surrounded by winged figures. This object is often considered a key element of cosmogonic myths within the Andean tradition. About a kilometer south of the main complex lies Pumapunku, meaning Gate of the Puma. This low stone plateau is scattered with unusual blocks featuring right angles, edges, and grooves. The so-called Enbras blocks particularly attract attention. They seem designed to interconnect. Their surfaces show remarkably smooth finishes, neat seams, straight angles, and symmetrical grooves. The mass of some blocks exceeds 100 tons. These characteristics have led to numerous theories suggesting the use of advanced technologies or machine processing. However, thorough investigation reveals that visual precision is largely misleading. In photos and popular videos, symmetry and strict forms stand out, but upon closer inspection, the blocks turn out to be uneven. Lines shift slightly, grooves vary in depth, and edges show signs of manual processing. Angles that appear straight upon measurement actually have deviations of several degrees. All this indicates that adjustments took place on site. In other words, grinding and corrections were made after initial laying. This method achieved the visual effect of a smooth structure without employing machines or precise templates. A widely held theory posits the existence of so-called ancient giants, suggesting the complex may be much older than all current estimates, possibly reaching 15 or 20,000 years. This theory is based on interpretations of the ruins' alignment with stars or unproven climatic assumptions. Additionally, some sources claim this site is linked to the Anunnaki or Hyperboreans, thus representing the legacy of a lost global civilization. Such ideas gained popularity due to authors like Erich von Däniken, who argued that the shape and design of these objects couldn't have been created prior to pre-Columbian civilizations without external assistance. Occasionally, images on certain stelae and stones in the complex serve as additional arguments. Among them are figures with large eyes, surrounded by symbols resembling helmets or halos, which have sparked speculation about ancient astronauts. However, these images, as iconographic analysis shows, have parallels in the region's religious and cosmogonic symbolism and do not extend beyond traditional Andean motifs. Figures with big eyes also appear in other South American cultures and symbolize not extraterrestrials, but spiritual beings or deities. From a scientific standpoint, Tiwanaku and Pumapunku are the results of local cultures with high levels of engineering and architectural thinking. The stones were made from andesite and sandstone sourced from the plateau's surroundings. They were worked with stone and bronze tools using abrasives and precise marking. Some blocks feature holes used for securing during lifting and movement. Analysis of the joints shows that adjustments were made manually, with gradual grinding and fitting of each element on site. Despite visible symmetry, block sizes often differ by several centimeters, confirming the absence of standardized machine processing. The orientation of certain parts of the complex does indeed indicate a connection to astronomical observations, but this is typical of many Mesoamerican and South American cultures. Archaeological layers found beneath Pumapunku date to around the 6th century CE. Radiocarbon analyses of organic remains discovered in construction layers support these dates. The stones of Pumapunku leave a strong impression, especially if one doesn't know what they are made of. The largest blocks consist of red sandstone, a dense yet relatively soft sedimentary rock. This material lends itself well to initial processing. It breaks along natural layers and can be carved without special tools. Its porous structure allows for effective shape control during impact and carving. Smaller, more precisely worked pieces are carved from andesite, a durable volcanic rock suitable for polishing. Although andesite is harder than sandstone, it's still hand-processed using abrasives, especially when combined with water and fine-grained quartz sand. This method yields smooth surfaces and allows for straight edges to be formed even without metal cutters or lathes. Stone hammers, bronze chisels, and local hardeners helped shape the blocks to the desired form. The question of Pumapunku's completeness remains open. The current state of the complex consists of disjointed blocks lying without an apparent system. Many are overturned, broken, or partially buried. The absence of intact structures raises speculations that Pumapunku was either never completed or destroyed. Archaeological data confirm that some construction work may have indeed been left unfinished. Some blocks appear to be in rough processing stages, while others are scattered, as if thrown away from the center of work. Given its location in a seismically active area, it's possible that some destruction resulted from earthquakes. Colonial period interference is also a possibility. Many stones were reused, and part of the foundation was dismantled for later construction needs. Meanwhile, the very principle of assembling the structure using precisely the fitted blocks with repeating elements and axis orientation indicate a well-thought-out architectural plan. This wasn't a random assembly of monoliths. It was constructed with engineering intent. Some blocks, like those with spikes, clearly aimed for interlocking. This suggests the existence of a complex of buildings, partially dismantled and partially lost. After Platonic, we still remain in the one region, but head further to Sacsayhuaman, the mysteries of the Incas in the heart of their territory. Here, on the heights near Cusco, the capital of the Inca Empire, a monument has survived, symbolizing their engineering prowess. It's Sacsayhuaman, a massive stone complex that many scholars consider the pinnacle of pre-Columbian construction in South America. Sacsayhuaman began construction in the 10th century during the reign of Inca Pachacuti and expanded under his successors. The complex not only towered over the capital, but also symbolized the state's power, emphasizing the sacred connection between the ruler, the city, and the land. Its appearance is hard to confuse with anything else. Cyclopean stone blocks arranged in a zigzag pattern fit together with astonishing precision. In places, the joints between the stones are so tight that even a blade can't fit between them. The main wall elements consist of blocks weighing anywhere from several dozen to hundreds of tons. The largest ones measure over 8 meters in length. The stones have irregular polygonal shapes, but fit perfectly, leaving no gaps and without any binding mortar. The surfaces fit snugly, and the edges are shaped to ensure the structure's strength during earthquakes. It's thanks to such joints that the walls of Sacsayhuaman have withstood ground vibrations for centuries. The primary material for the masonry was limestone, quarried nearby the plateau. Higher rows were built with smaller blocks of andesite and diorite. Some stones have polished surfaces that shine slightly, while corners are rounded for added joint strength. Archaeological data indicate that stones were first shaped on site and then gradually fitted to neighbors until achieving the effect of a perfect joint. Individual seams exhibit complex, multifaceted designs. Angles curve, lines arc or wave, and individual stones create puzzles with 12 or more contact surfaces. Such shapes gave the masonry stability and flexibility. During seismic shifts, the walls could slightly breathe without losing strength. In contrast to rectangular masonry, which breaks under lateral shifts, the polygonal system distributed loads across multiple faces. Some blocks in Sacsayhuaman showcase the so-called impressive junctions. The stones seem to integrate into one another or contour the lines of adjacent blocks. This not only strengthens the structure, but also adds visual appeal, often becoming a subject of speculation. However, signs of polishing and elements of unfinished processing indicate methods typical of well-organized stonework, not technologies whose origins remain a mystery. Sacsayhuaman is part of a broader complex that evidently served both defensive and ritual functions. The central part consisted of 3 levels of terraces, with temples and towers at the top. During colonization, a significant portion of the upper layer was destroyed by the Spanish to build new structures. However, the lower levels, made of massive blocks, have survived, still showcasing the true scale of the design. The size and accuracy of Sacsayhuaman's masonry have spawned numerous theories. Some researchers have hypothesized the so-called stone softening, claiming ancient masters possessed a substance or technology that temporarily turned stone into a malleable mass. This idea is discussed in the works of popular alternative history authors, yet neither archaeology nor geology supports it. No signs of melting or deformation, which would suggest chemical exposure, have been found on the blocks. The structure of the stone retains all characteristics of solid material processing. Another common theory involves the participation of an extraterrestrial civilization. Some argue that the Incas couldn't have built such walls without help from ancient engineers with unknown methods. However, proponents of these theories fail to provide concrete physical evidence or comparable artifacts and ignore the context of other similar structures in the region. Their arguments rely solely on the visual impression from the scale and density of the masonry. Meanwhile, archaeological studies provide ample facts to reconstruct actual construction methods. Stone processing utilized stone and bronze tools. On several blocks, one can notice signs of polishing, hammer impacts, and guiding grooves. Research shows that the Incas employed a technique of gradual fitting, where each block was adjusted to its neighbor. The stone was laid, contact points marked, then removed and refined. This process repeated many times until the surface began to perfectly align with the surrounding one. Such a method demands time and effort but is entirely feasible with skilled craftsmen. The purpose of Sacsayhuaman continues to generate discussions. Its strategic location, powerful walls, and presence of towers indicate a defensive function. At the same time, the layout, scale, and central role in the sacred space of Cusco allow viewing the complex as a ritual center. During Inca times, religious ceremonies took place here, including worship of the sun, which was considered the most important event of the year. The festival occurred during the winter solstice at the end of June. During this period, when temperatures were low, the Incas held a celebration to honor the return of solar energy. By the ruler's decree, all work was forbidden for several days, and people gathered at the walls of Sacsayhuaman in special clothing, wearing headdresses adorned with feathers and gold discs. Offerings were made, mainly white llamas, as gifts to the deity Inti. The ceremony included a fire ritual, where sacred flames lit torches passed throughout the capital. Inti Raymi symbolized not only the people's connection to the sun, but also the unity of the empire. Representatives from various regions came to Cusco, bringing gifts and swearing loyalty to the ruler. These functions aren't mutually exclusive. As in many cultures, sacred and military spaces could intersect. Finally, we descend from the mountains to a lifeless plain. Here, amidst the dry desert where it hardly ever rains, lies one of the most mysterious complexes of antiquity, the Nazca geoglyphs. This is the final stop on our journey through the astonishing structures of the pre-Columbian world in South America. The plateau is located on the southern coast of present-day Peru. Within an area of about 500 square kilometers, hundreds of lines, trapezoids, and drawings created by humans around 3,000 years ago can be found. Among them are giant images of birds, monkeys, spiders, dogs, lizards, as well as geometric figures and intersecting lines. Some lines stretch for tens of kilometers, while individual figures reach widths and lengths over 80 meters. The lines vary in width from 30 centimeters to nearly 2 meters, with depths reaching 15 centimeters. The total length of the network exceeds 800 kilometers. All of them are barely noticeable from the ground but become distinct from above. At a height of 50 meters, the outlines begin to emerge, and from several hundred meters high, full figures take shape. This is what led to a long period of ignorance about the geoglyphs. Perhaps the most famous image is the so-called astronaut, a human figure with a round head and an arm raised upward. Unlike most drawings on the plateau's horizontal surface, this figure is carved into the hillside and can even be seen from a higher elevation. It stands about 30 meters tall and has sparked numerous interpretations. Other figures include precise silhouettes of a hummingbird, a whale, a monkey with a curled tail, and a spider with long legs. The first mentions of the strange lines date back to the 10th century, when Spanish chroniclers noticed mysterious tracks on the rocky surface. However, serious interest in the plateau only arose in the 20th century with the advent of aviation. Civilian flight pilots flying over the desert noticed giant drawings that were impossible to see from the ground. This opened a new chapter in the region's archaeology. One of the first researchers was Maria Reiche, a German mathematician who devoted a decade to studying the lines. She measured the figures, cleared them of sand, and protected them from damage. Thanks to her efforts, the Nazca Plateau gained status as a protected site and became a subject of scientific interest. She believed the geoglyphs were linked to astronomy and calendar cycles. Debates around this hypothesis continued, and over time, other possible explanations emerged. The main question that arises for anyone who sees photos of the plateau is, why? Why create images that can't be seen from a human height? Who, and for what purpose, drew straight lines thousands of steps long, crossing the rocky surface without any plumb lines, levels, or tools? Once the Nazca geoglyphs became known to the public, they quickly became the center of fantastical theories. In the mid-20th century, Erich von Däniken proposed the idea that the geoglyphs were traces of alien activity. He suggested that the long lines and trapezoids served as landing pads for extraterrestrial ships. Moreover, he interpreted animal and human figures as signals meant for those looking from above. Following Däniken, similar ideas began to spread. Concepts related to the Nazca Plateau were picked up by numerous authors, including science fiction writers and popularizers of ancient mysteries. In various films, books, and TV shows, this site was portrayed as some kind of airport for spaceships, a grand calendar of a hyper-civilization, or a field filled with astrological codes. The image of the astronaut, a silhouette of a person with a raised arm and round head, often appeared, evoking associations with modern astronauts in helmets. However, all these versions are based merely on subjective impressions. None of these assumptions are backed by archaeological findings, engineering calculations, or logical reasoning. The Nazca geoglyphs leave no signs of landings, destruction, or breaking that might indicate contact with heavy machinery. Modern science offers more grounded and convincing hypotheses regarding the functions of the geoglyphs. The main technique involved people clearing away the top dark layer of gravel, exposing the lighter, denser rock beneath. This technique is called engraving. The stones pushed aside formed clear outlines. Thanks to the dry climate and almost complete lack of precipitation, the lines have survived to this day without the need for additional reinforcements. The fact that similar techniques were used in other regions, such as the Australian deserts, the Middle East, and North Africa, where less extensive geoglyphs made using similar methods were also found, adds further credibility. It is also known that the Nazca culture had a developed system of underground aqueducts and ritual spaces, indicating a complex social structure and engineering organization. The dating of the lines relies on the analysis of organic remains found near the geoglyphs and comparisons with the cultural layers of neighboring settlements. Most images date back to the period between the 5th century BCE and the 5th century CE. Some may have been created even earlier, during the Paracas culture, and later added to by the Nazca people. Some figures, according to scholars, are associated with astronomy. The lines could align with the sunrise of the sun or moon on certain days of the year, and images of star animals might reflect elements of mythology. However, unlike pseudo-scientific theories, none of the scientific hypotheses claim absolute universality. The geoglyphs likely had various functions at different historical periods, and their significance may have varied based on ritual context. The most substantiated scientific theory links these geoglyphs to the religious beliefs of the Nazca people. In the arid climate, where water was vital, many rituals of the Nazca culture aimed to attract rain and ensure fertility. The geoglyphs may have been part of rituals worshipping deities associated with water and the sky. The scale of the lines, their precise orientation, and visibility from above, according to several researchers, symbolized a calling to celestial deities. Some images might embody nature spirits or specific mythological beings. These figures served as offerings or prayers directed upward, explaining why many geoglyphs weren't intended to be viewed from ground level. Their addressees weren't humans, but gods. The geoglyphs are just one aspect of the rich heritage of the Nazca culture, which also includes the Paracas culture. The people who named this plateau emerged around the 1st century BCE and lasted until the 6th century. They became heirs to the earlier Paracas culture, known for its textiles, complex burials, and trepanation art. From the Paracas culture, Nazca inherited ritual practices, beliefs about the afterlife, and elements of material culture, adapting them to the arid coastal conditions. The Paracas culture, which existed from the 6th to the 1st century BCE, demonstrated a high level of anatomical knowledge. Over 100 skulls found in burials on the Paracas Peninsula show signs of trepanation, meaning surgical removal of parts of the skull bone. Some skulls show clear signs of healing, indicating patient survival and suggesting systematic care. Researchers believe trepanation occurred for treating injuries caused by intertribal conflicts and for ritual purposes. Oval and rectangular holes, neat edges, and the absence of infection signs suggest a variety of techniques and the experience of surgeons. Alongside trepanation, artificial head deformation was actively practiced, starting in infants by tightly bandaging the head with boards, cords, or leather strips. As a result, the child developed an elongated or flat skull. Anthropologists interpret this practice as a method of creating visual identity for the ruling class. Perhaps the elongated head shape was associated with spiritual elitism or wisdom. Some researchers hypothesize that the skull shape mimicked the silhouettes of mountains or other sacred landscape objects, although there are no direct written confirmations of this. Interestingly, the tradition of skull deformation persisted in Nazca culture, although to a lesser degree. Mummified remains show signs of trepanation and intentional deformation, especially in men buried with ritual pottery. Archaeological excavations reveal that the region's population lived in small settlements linked by a complex irrigation system. Remnants of underground aqueducts, known as pukis, indicate a high level of engineering organization. Residents still use these channels today. Besides geoglyphs, Nazca left behind pottery rich in ornamentation, color, and symbolism. The vessels depict mythical creatures, ritual scenes, and deities with animal features. This iconography serves as a vital source of information about Nazca's religious beliefs and its connection to nature. In recent decades, new technologies have opened avenues for further exploration of the plateau. Using aerial photography, satellite data, laser scanning, and thermal imaging, researchers have discovered dozens of previously unknown geoglyphs. Some are so weathered that they're barely distinguishable even on sight. Among the new findings are images of a cat, an eagle, a moving human, and intricate geometric structures crossing slopes and dry riverbeds. However, alongside these discoveries, concerns arise. Geoglyphs face threats from erosion, unauthorized tourism, road construction, and agricultural activities. In the early 2010s, heavy machinery passed over the lines, leaving marks that are difficult to restore. Vandalism has been documented, and sandstorms, along with climate change, gradually erode the outlines of geoglyphs. Since 1994, the Nazca Plateau has been listed as a World Heritage Site. International organizations and Peruvian archaeologists collaborate to monitor the area, create digital archives, and limit access. In the 20th century, projects began utilizing artificial intelligence and neural networks to help identify faint traces of geoglyphs in satellite images. Research is conducted in partnership with universities from Japan, Germany, and Peru. In the mid-3rd millennium BCE, known as Khufu, construction of the pyramid began. It started around 2506 BCE and lasted about 20 years. This structure became not only a burial site, but also an astonishing megalithic object built with limited technical capabilities. The proportions, alignment, and internal arrangement of the pyramid continue to captivate and provoke discussions among scholars. Initially, the pyramid's height was nearly 187 meters. Each side of the base measured over 230 meters, with differences in length not exceeding 20 centimeters. The base is aligned with a deviation of no more than 2 centimeters, and the corners approach 90 degrees within a few minutes of arc. This construction comprised over 2.3 million stone blocks made of limestone and granite. Each block weighed between 2 and 15 tons. From above, one can observe a barely noticeable concavity of the faces. Each side slightly curves inward, creating a visual effect of 8 faces, especially pronounced in dim light. This feature might have been used for geometric control or held ritual significance. The pyramid wasn't meant for the living. It was a closed structure housing the mummified body of the pharaoh, ready for eternal life. According to ancient Egyptian beliefs, the body had to remain intact for the soul to return. During mummification, internal organs were removed and placed in vessels, each guarded by a separate deity. The body was placed in a sarcophagus carved from a single block of granite and situated in the central burial chamber, approximately 43 meters above the base. Its walls and ceiling are lined with Aswan granite. Above it are 5 horizontal relieving chambers that help evenly distribute the weight of the upper layers of masonry. Narrow shafts, about 20 centimeters wide, extend from the burial chamber. The southern shaft points to the star Al-Nitak, part of Orion's belt, associated with the deity Osiris. The northern shaft indicates Thuban, located in the constellation Draco, near the north celestial pole during Khufu's time. These directions relate to ancient beliefs about the soul's journey to the afterlife. Beneath the royal chamber lies a space known as the Queen's Chamber, whose exact purpose remains unclear. It likely held ritual significance or served as a false chamber to confuse robbers. Below the base level, a third chamber was hewn from rock, which remained unfinished. Its floor features an indentation resembling a sarcophagus, but shows no signs of processing. The internal rooms connect through a system of corridors and galleries. A key element is the Great Gallery, a tall, long passage leading to the burial chamber. Its ceiling is stepped, enhancing structural stability. All passages are designed considering directed loads and accessibility challenges. The pyramid was looted in ancient times. When workers cut a tunnel into its northern side in the 6th century CE, they found only an empty sarcophagus. No body, ritual vessels, or jewelry remained. Archaeologists believe the robbery occurred long before this, likely during the Middle Kingdom, although exact circumstances are unknown. Despite the loss of burial inventory, the pyramid's internal structure remains intact. Construction was carried out by an organized workforce. At the foot of the plateau, archaeologists found remnants of permanent settlements where builders lived and worked. These settlements featured bakeries, storerooms, workshops, and residences. Workers received meals consisting of bread, beer, meat, and vegetables. Remains found in graves near the site indicate physical strain and significant burdens, but also respect for their labor. Burials accompanied by tools show bodies arranged according to ritual traditions. The ratio of the pyramid's height to the length of its base approximates pi, and its faces align precisely with cardinal directions. It remains the only wonder of the ancient world preserved to this day, continuing to be a subject of study, symbolizing ancient knowledge and human will. Transitioning from precise measurements and architectural details to questions that science long struggled to answer was inevitable. The Great Pyramid of Khufu captured attention not only from archaeologists. From the beginning of European excursions to Egypt, starting with Napoleon's era, the pyramid became a target for speculation and fictional theories. Unusual proportions, a high degree of preservation, and the absence of inscriptions spurred a wave of interpretations far removed from historical reality. One of the most enduring ideas that emerged in the 19th century was the perception of the pyramid as an energy device. Proponents of this hypothesis claimed that the pyramid's shape could concentrate energy and influence physical objects. Assertions arose that in the pyramid's center, blades don't dull, plants grow faster, and water gets charged. None of these claims received experimental validation, and such theories are considered pseudo-scientific in the academic literature. Nevertheless, the idea of pyramidal energy found reflection in popular culture. Of the underwater structure remains unexplored due to challenging conditions. The debate surrounding the Yanaguni monument continues, with opinions split among researchers. While some assert its man-made origin, others argue for a natural explanation. The lack of cultural artifacts raises further questions about the existence of an ancient settlement. Various geological phenomena in the region demonstrate similar patterns, reinforcing the view that the structure might be a natural formation. Professor Kimura and his team advocate for more underwater excavations to uncover the truth. Yet, skeptics highlight the absence of stratigraphic data and definitive evidence of human alteration. To date, no scientific study has conclusively proven the structure's artificial origin with sufficient rigor. In international academic publications, the site is categorized as a geological formation that visually resembles architectural elements. The monument's location complicates research efforts, given the strong currents and limited visibility in the area. The data was obtained using underwater cameras and photographs taken during short expeditions. Attempts to create a 3D model of the site face technical difficulties, and accurate marine stratigraphy remains undeveloped due to a lack of deep-sea drilling. To this day, the Yanaguni monument remains an unresolved mystery in marine geology and a subject of cultural interest. The scientific community leans toward a natural origin for the structure, but proponents of alternative theories still insist on its megalithic nature. The question of the underwater platform's origin near Yanaguni remains open until large-scale research is conducted. We still have a very limited understanding of the distant past. I sincerely hope this journey was fascinating for you and inspired reflection. Until we meet